Ladies and gentlemen, it is WrestleMania week and I am in my car. Why am I in my car making this video? I don't know. Change the scenery? It doesn't really matter. I just wanted to get this video out to you guys. This is my official WrestleMania predictions. If you saw my last video, you saw that I did a card predictions video, what I thought the card was going to be, and that was only a few weeks ago. This was post-Elimination Chamber, and somehow it was still kind of unpredictable at that time. WWE has had a really weird build with this WrestleMania card this year, and giving us a card that feels WrestleMania worthy, in my opinion. If you look at this card on paper, I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but you gotta be honest, it doesn't look like the most exciting WrestleMania card we've ever had. That being said, there has been proof in the past of WWE delivering a card that looks less than stellar, to say the least, on paper, and delivers an awesome show. For example, SummerSlam this past year, on paper, didn't look that great, but it turned out to be one of the best shows of 2024. Anyway, guys, I am going to get into the predictions. I am going to start going through the matches one at a time. I think we have the full WrestleMania card at this point because we are 6 days out from WrestleMania, and I am ready to make my WrestleMania predictions. Let's start with a match that I'm kind of indifferent about right now. It is El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio. For the last few weeks on Monday Night Raw, this has kind of been the comic relief of the evening in terms of building this match. It's not like a, master of storytelling kind of match, but they have Rey Mysterio in it, and they couldn't leave the Hall of Famer off the card, so of course this match happened at WrestleMania. I do get it. From a storyline perspective, while this doesn't wow me very much, and it's not something I'm particularly super excited for, I have to admit that I am really excited to see the in-ring stuff itself. Chad Gable versus Rey Mysterio, it's going to put on a good match. I mean, El Grande Americano, not Chad Gable. Anyway, a lot of people wanted this to be a mask versus mask match. I don't think that's necessarily what it needs. I think El Grande is getting unmasked one way or another. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So my prediction is going to be Rey Mysterio winning this match and kind of getting his back on El Grande Americano. And we're going to find out who this man is once and for all. Is he Chad Gable or is he Omos? We don't really know. I cannot believe this match is on the card. Next, we have War Raiders versus the New Day for the World Tag Team Championships. The WWE Tag Team Championships are on WrestleMania SmackDown, yet this match is on the WrestleMania card. Why is it on the WrestleMania card? I don't think anybody knows. I thought we were building the SmackDown Tag Team division to a huge multi-man match ever since January. They've been killing it since January. They deserve a spot on the card. But no, let's put this 2-week-old feud between the War Raiders and the New Day on the WrestleMania card. Look, I think the only reason this thing is on the card is because maybe something big happens. If something big doesn't happen, I don't think there was a point to putting this match on the card at all. The only reason I could think as to why this match is on the Mania card is simply because maybe Big E comes back and costs the New Day the match. That's the only thing I can think here. If Big E's not returning and costing the New Day, I don't know why this is on WrestleMania. This is very much a Monday Night Raw match, and I don't understand why they would put this on WrestleMania unless they were planning something big like a Big E return. Now, is Big E cleared? Is he not? No one really knows. But at the end of the day, if that doesn't happen, I think this is just an utter waste of time and completely pointless. Either way, I'm going to say the War Raiders retain. This is an interesting thing to talk about. We have Randy Orton, who now finds himself without a WrestleMania opponent. Prayers to Kevin Owens. Best wishes that he can get recovered and get healed soon and hopefully get back in the ring. But now we have Randy without a WrestleMania match. On SmackDown, they teased 2 matches, and I think it's going to be one of these two. You could do an open challenge with one of the, new signees like Aleister Black or something like that. That would be pretty interesting, but I do think it's either going to fall in Randy versus Nick Aldis or Randy versus Solo Sikoa. Now look, I really don't want to see Randy versus Solo Sikoa at WrestleMania. I mean, if you want to add more of a dampening to this card on paper, you go with that match. But at the end of the day, it would maybe make sense. Maybe since this is so last minute, who knows if, Nick Aldis has been keeping up with training, if he's, ready in ring to compete at WrestleMania on this short of notice. Who really knows the circumstances here? But if Nick Aldis is ready to compete and ready to go for WrestleMania, I do think that should be the direction. I think Randy Orton versus Nick Aldis is probably the best match you could pull out of this. I would be happy with Randy versus Aleister Black too, if Black were to come back. But at the end of the day, I do think it's going to be Nick Aldis versus Randy Orton. Or at least I hope so. I think Solo's going to be busy elsewhere. We'll get to that. But if it's Randy versus Nick Aldis, I do think Randy is going to pick up the win regardless. Speaking of Solo Sikoa, we have LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu for the United States Championship. It does kind of suck that Solo has never gotten an actual match of his own at WrestleMania, but what can you say? He plays a good side character. I do think that one way or another, Solo and Jacob are going to split at WrestleMania itself. WWE likes to have these big moments at the big shows. I don't know if it's Solo costs Jacob Fatu the match. I don't know if Jacob Fatu wins and then maybe turns on Solo. I don't know. My official prediction is going to be that Jacob Fatu wins the United States Championship and turns his back on Solo Sikoa. I think that's the safest bet for me. But I think it could really go either way. And I wouldn't really mind it going either way, honestly, which is pretty exciting. Next up, we have Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. This build has been atrocious. These two have absolutely no chemistry together on the mic. Hopefully that's different in ring, because I think the reason people are really forgiving the terrible build that this match has is because people are expecting a banger in the ring, and myself included. I expect this to be a full-on banger in the ring. If it's anything less and they don't really have chemistry in the ring, this was a colossal failure. Speaking of colossal failures, I do think that it would be a huge mistake for Charlotte Flair to win this match. What does Charlotte need with the title? I know, it's the age-old adage, death, taxes, and Charlotte Flair wins championships. Those are the 3 guarantees in life. I know this, but I do think WWE should start focusing on its future stars. Charlotte does not really offer much as champion at this point in time, and I think Tiffany Stratton could really use the rub here, especially after this atrocious build where she's kind of been getting buried the whole way along. I do think Tiffany needs this rub here post the Mania match. Now, do I think she's completely buried if she loses? Probably not. But I don't think it's going to do her any favors if she loses this match. And I think Tiffany Stratton retaining is the smartest option. Now, let's talk about the World Heavyweight Championship match. We have Jey Uso versus Gunther. The last 3 weeks of this feud have been absolutely incredible. Everything before that, I'm just going to refuse to acknowledge that it exists, because that's the only way I'm going to be happy about this, honestly. The last 3 weeks of this story have been absolutely fire and have really turned me on to the whole Jey Uso hype train. Before that, I wasn't really on it, but Jey Uso, he's really delivered in the last couple weeks, and I do think it is inevitable. I do think, whether I agree or disagree with the decision, I think Jey Uso is winning the World Heavyweight Championship. I think WWE have booked themselves into a corner here. I think they can't afford for Jey Uso to lose again. They've had him lose to Gunther so many times already and lose so many big opportunities in so many matches that if Jey Uso loses here, he's done. Like, main event Jey Uso, the push for Jey Uso, the hype for Jey Uso, it plummets if he loses at WrestleMania. So, as much as I don't want to see Gunther lose another back-to-back WrestleMania with another back-to-back underwhelming title win, I think Jey Uso is going to win. My concern with Jey Uso going over and becoming World Heavyweight Champion is I don't know what he offers as World Heavyweight Champion. I don't know what a world title reign for Jey Uso looks like. We didn't really get to see much of an IC title reign. And if you look at all the big world title contenders, there's not a lot of big heels to put up against the mega babyface in Jey Uso. You have, Gunther, who you might as well never run that match back again after this because you've done it so many times. You have maybe Braun Breaker, but again, we've been there, done that. We've seen it. I don't know what other top heels could go up against Jey Uso. You have guys like CM Punk and Seth Rollins that I don't know if they would have a good story with Jey Uso to tell over the world title. So I don't really know what a world championship reign for Jey Uso looks like, but I guess we're going to find out because I'm predicting Jey Uso wins the title. And on to what will be the night one main event. We have CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman in the middle of it all in CM Punk's corner. Now, a lot of people are predicting that Paul Heyman is going to turn on both Punk and Roman. He's going to side with Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins wins. I disagree. Look, first of all, I will say that I do think Seth Rollins should win this match. I think it's the objectively correct decision to have Seth Rollins just go over in this match. And I think he will. That's my official prediction, by the way, that Seth Rollins will win this match. But I don't think Paul Heyman sides with Seth Rollins. The reason why I say that is because I think there's too much money on the table right now for a CM Punk versus Roman singles feud and subsequent match, probably at SummerSlam this year. And I think Paul Heyman needs to be involved in that. So what I think is going to happen is maybe there becomes a big moment in this match, a climactic moment, where Paul Heyman is faced with that decision. Is it going to be Punk or is it going to be Roman? Because this past Monday on Raw, they stressed the importance of the choice, that Paul Heyman has to make the choice. And I think he's going to be faced with that choice in the match, and it's going to distract both Punk and Roman. They are both very emotionally invested in this, obviously. Who is Paul Heyman going to go with? And I think that distraction is going to cost them both. I think Seth Rollins is going to come in Shield style with all steel chairs swinging and stomps flying, and he is going to capitalize and beat both his arch nemeses in this match and stand tall at the end of WrestleMania Night 1. And I think you keep Paul Heyman involved. He doesn't really make the choice up until maybe SummerSlam. If CM Punk and Roman have their match, then maybe at that match you have Paul Heyman make the official decision. I think until then you dangle it over our heads. I think it's too good of a story to pass up. But either way, I'm going to say Seth Rollins wins here. Going on to some Night 2 matches, and I might be mixing some of these up because I'm doing it off the top of my head, but I don't really care. It's WrestleMania one way or another. We're going to start with the triple threat match for the Women's World title. Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley versus Bianca. Look, I think the story and the feud for this match has been good, and I think they've honestly been building it up so that Io kind of has to win here. But I'm also kind of conflicted because I could see Bianca winning here. Bianca going full heel and winning the championship over Io Sky. I'm just trying to think of future directions and where this might be able to go. For example, where does Io go after retaining the title, if she retains the title? No one really knows what happens to her after that. Or another prime example is Rhea Ripley. I don't think Rhea should win the title here because we've been there, done that. We've seen it a million times. Rhea doesn't need the title anymore. Bianca, on the other hand, you could do a lot of stuff with that. You could use it as a catalyst to turn her heel, have heel Bianca for the first time in a while, because it seems like the crowds are starting to turn on her. I don't really know why, but it does seem like the crowds are starting to turn against Bianca Belair. Maybe you capitalize that. I know they're trying to make Rhea the heel of the feud, but let's be honest. No one is going to boo Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley has her fans. They love her to death, and it's just going to stay that way, in my personal opinion. I'm going to go with the wild card here. I'm going to say Bianca Belair wins the Women's World title, maybe turning heel in the process. That's not an official prediction, but I do think maybe from there you can do a Bianca Jade Cargill program for the Women's World title, maybe at Evolution, maybe at SummerSlam. I think there's a strong possibility for that to happen and for more money stories to come out of maybe a Bianca win rather than an Io win. It does kind of suck for Io if this is the end of her reign and it's kind of a transitional run, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Bianca. Next, let's go into the Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-Way. You have Braun Breaker versus Penta versus Finn versus Dom. And I think this is the match where the Judgment Day breaks up. Honestly and truly, I think the Judgment Day implodes in this match here. How does that go exactly? I could see it going one of two ways. Either A, Dominic Mysterio wins the title, costing Finn Balor, and then Finn Balor turns on him, turns on the Judgment Day, and then Finn Balor goes on to chase Dominic Mysterio for the IC title and eventually win it. That's option A in my eyes. Option B is quite literally the opposite. You have Finn Balor win the Intercontinental Championship, turning his back on Dominic, and then Dominic chases Finn for the Intercontinental Championship and wins the Intercontinental Championship from Finn Balor. I think either way it goes, I think one of those two men is going to win this match, and I think the other is going to chase and then eventually take the title off that person. Because I do think they both deserve the accolade of Intercontinental Champion. It's just a matter of who's going to get it first, and then who's going to take it off them. I know a lot of people are saying Dominic Mysterio, and I could say that. I'm going to go bold prediction here. I'm going to say Finn Balor wins the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, and I do think then you can have him maybe from pinning Dominic. I almost said finning because pin Balor. But I could see a world where Finn Balor actually sees an opportunity to pin Dominic, and he takes it. I could say Finn Balor wins the Intercontinental Championship at Dominic's expense. That causes the Judgment Day to split up, and maybe at a future PLE in Mexico, because Triple H did say that there is a PLE coming up in Mexico, that maybe Dominic takes the title off Finn Balor in that moment, maybe as a babyface. Who knows? But I think I think they would much rather go with the idea of the veteran Finn Balor eventually putting over the, young upstart Dominic Mysterio rather than the other way around. So I'm going to say Finn Balor. Speaking of the Judgment Day, we have the women's tag team titles on the line as Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez take on Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. I think this match is simply in existence to get Bayley and Liv Morgan on the card, and Lyra Valkyria too, even though it would make more sense to have her, defend her Intercontinental Championship, but that's besides the point. I'm going to keep this one short. I think Liv and Raquel retain. I think maybe Bayley turns on Lyra, and then you can have a heel Bayley going after a babyface Lyra Valkyria for the Intercontinental Championship and actually have a really great story for that IC title coming out of WrestleMania. I don't think there's any merit to having Bayley and Lyra win the tag team titles, so I'm going to say Liv and Raquel retain the titles. Next up, we have Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest in a Sin City street fight. The feuds won me over. Honestly, they got me invested, but this is one of those scenarios where there is only one correct answer. Drew McIntyre must win. In no world, in no way, in no shape, in no form should Damian Priest be going over in this match. I'm not a huge Drew McIntyre fan like a lot of you out there. I'm not glazing Drew McIntyre all the time, but I do think it's starting to get ridiculous, the amount of times that he's, taken a loss. And I think at this point, he needs a definitive win. I don't even want a cheap win. I want a definitive win from Drew McIntyre. I think anything else, and God forbid Damian Priest goes over here because Triple H loves to put Damian Priest over. God forbid if that happens, I'm nervous for the future of Drew McIntyre. So I'm going to say Drew has to win this match. This one actually might be on night one, but I'm not entirely sure. Next, I have Jade Cargill versus Naomi, one-on-one. I'm going to keep this one short as well. Although I do really enjoy the heel work that Naomi has been doing, I think Jade Cargill's winning. I think that is the obvious choice. I don't see Naomi going over Jade Cargill in her first official match back. So I'm going to say that Jade Cargill picks up the win. Next up, we have a match between AJ Styles and Logan Paul, and this is another one of those matches that I think only exists because it's going to be a banger in the ring. The story hasn't been that great, and again, I'm going to keep this one short because it's not that complicated. I think AJ's going over. Logan Paul has stood tall over AJ week after week now. I think AJ is getting the win here. I think it would be a mistake to put Logan Paul over. I'm not one of those people who just hates everything Logan Paul does and wants him to fail at all costs. I actually enjoy what he does in the ring most of the time. Granted, I said what he does in the ring, but, you know, it is what it is. I enjoy Logan Paul's work in WWE in the ring, but I do think it would be a mistake to put him over here, and I think that AJ Styles deserves a win here at WrestleMania. And finally, we have the WWE Championship match between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. I think the build to this has been pretty freaking fire. I think it is missing a little certain something, like a little sort of intensity to it. I think the promos left a little bit to be desired in this feud, if I'm being totally honest with you. But I think what we gotten, I think it hasn't been bad. I think there's a lot of plot holes, sure, but I think that the feud overall has been really good and has been pretty awesome, and I'm pretty sold on heel Cena at this point. Now, the reason why I think this feud has been missing a certain something is because I think the rest of what this story needs is gonna happen in the ring. John Cena is not necessarily known for being like a 5-star classic kind of worker. John Cena is much more known as a in-ring storyteller, right? That's more his forte. Cody Rhodes as well, but more so John Cena. He's that in-ring storyteller. That's the style that he kind of likes. At the end of the day, I'm going to say that that's what's going to happen in the ring. Is there's probably going to be a lot more intensity. There's probably going to be that moment where Cody gets his back on John Cena for that attack at Elimination Chamber. Sure, he gave him a crossroads a few weeks ago, but I don't think that's enough. I think Cody needs to beat the holy hell out of John Cena. And I think we're going to get that moment where Cody snaps in the match and just beats the hell out of John Cena and maybe beats Cena bloody. Who knows, where Cody just snaps. I think that's something that maybe this rivalry has been missing, and I think it's going to pay off in the match. Now, there's all this talk of The Rock showing up and maybe Stone Cold showing up. Triple H does love his big, grand, overbooked endings to WrestleMania, so I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. I do think The Rock is showing up for sure. If Stone Cold shows up, I don't think it should be in favor of Rhodes. Not saying that he should turn against Rhodes, but I think that you have The Rock out to maybe try to help Cena win, and then maybe have Stone Cold come out to neutralize The Rock and bring it back to one-on-one, Cena versus Cody. Because I do think that Cena needs to win here. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a massive John Cena fan. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a massive Cena fan. And I know people are going to be like, oh, you're biased. You just want Cena to get 17. And I do, but I always wanted it to be under the right circumstances, and I think these are the right circumstances. John Cena hasn't won a singles match in 2 years. It has been 2 years since John Cena's won a televised singles match. And to be totally honest with you, I think it's time. I think if Cena goes through this big kind of character resurgence and like, this is what I need to do to get what I want, this is what has been missing, and I'm finally doing it for me, screw all of you, and then he just loses, like, well, that didn't work. I think you've wasted our time, and you've wasted this monumental moment that was the Cena heel turn. I know he said, like, oh, I'm going to retire with the belt. I don't think that's an immediate effect thing. I think he's planning on holding it for the rest of the year, and then come December, no one will have beaten him, so he's going to retire the champion. What I think is a much better story here is you have Cody lose at WrestleMania, and then you have Cena hold the title all the way to the end, and as time is running out, people are like desperately trying to dethrone Cena, like, oh my gosh, time's running out, like he's about to retire champion, and everyone is desperately trying to get the belt off him. No one can. Cody comes back at him. We get the rematch, Cody versus Cena, right at the end of Cena's retirement tour, and Cody gets his win back and takes the title from Cena. I think that is the much better and much more logical way to go if I'm WWE and I'm booking it. But I do think you ruin any credibility John Cena has left if he loses this match. Screw the whole, oh, WrestleMania needs a happy ending, the babyface needs to win. Screw all that, because at WrestleMania 39, Roman Reigns beat Cody Rhodes. And I'm still, to this day, even after seeing WrestleMania 40, and yes, it was awesome, I still die on the hill that Cody should have beaten Roman Reigns at 39. That's just my hot take. That has nothing to do with this video, but I had to get that off my chest. It's been bothering me. Either way, I think John Cena has to win here. I think this is kind of just a must win for Cena. He's lost and lost and lost and lost and lost, and he's going to lose all credibility soon if he loses again, especially this major match, this major moment. I think Cena's got to win. He 100% has to win here, and that is my prediction. I say John Cena goes over. Well, there you go, guys. There's my WrestleMania predictions. I am going to upload a WrestleMania reactions video and give you my thoughts and opinions on what happens at the show itself. I'm hoping for a really good show. I'm kind of hyped. To be honest, I want my hype meter to be like up here, but it's not. It's like right about here, which kind of stinks. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's WrestleMania. I'm going to be watching regardless, and I'm going to see you guys after WrestleMania. Peace out.